Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Throttle Therapy. This is a little video about our trip to Wyoming. We stayed at the Wyoming High Country Lodge, which I would recommend. Beautiful place. We stayed there for a total of 6 days, spent 1 day in Yellowstone, and the rest of the time was spent side-by-siding, as you'll see. The place is owned by David and Shantae, who were absolute wonderful guests. They sat around, talked to the customers, people staying there, and we had a great time. As you can see here, the moose, they were right at the door. I mean, literally 10 feet away. They would walk behind you and scare the daylights out of you. They were pretty, and I use air quotes, friendly, but they were moose when they're wild animals. The cook's name was Josh, and the guy who did most of the maintenance and checked you and everything, his name was Bennett, and really a good guy. The place served you breakfast and dinner every day. They made it. You didn't have a choice. It was just what they served. We had steak, pork loin, pork chops. Breakfast was pretty normal. Coffee, pancakes, eggs, bacon, sausage, biscuits and gravy, stuff like that. Kind of salt of the earth food, I guess is a good way to put it. I just trying my drone capabilities here, which I know suck, but I'm getting better at it. Trying to show the moose were right there to the right most of the time. They have cabins. They also have the lodge. It was not horribly expensive, but considering you get your food and they give you a pack out lunch every day to take on the trail with you, and when we were out side by side, and it was pretty nice. So I would highly recommend staying here. Well worth your time, money. It was a great place. Day one, went side by side in at Bald Mountain. As you can see here, there was a lot of snow. We got stuck quite a few times. Ended up pulling out a guy from Tennessee that was in a Dodge Ram half-ton and ball tires. Got her stuck in the snow. Had to pull it out with my Maverick. Didn't really have too much of a problem, actually. I was a little nervous, but we got him out of the snow. And we were driving around trying to stay on the trail as much as you can, but you had to go around the snow quite a bit. As you can see here from the scenery, there's a lot of snow. We did go back here about day 4, I think. It was day 5 before we left. And the snow was a lot better. And I could get through. For most of it, it's about 10 miles around this mountain. It was an incredible place. Usually there was elk up on the hills up there. You could see for miles, and it was just beautiful. The temperature was in the 60s and 70s. We were at 8,900 feet right here, roughly. And the top of that mountain was somewhere around 9,000, 9,500, I think, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see here, though, there was still a ton of snow, and getting around was a little bit of a pain. But for the most part, we didn't have a lot of issues. There was just having to figure out where to go and how to navigate everything. You can see here there's a lot of ravines around these mountains, and somebody had already gone through and made a trail, so we just kind of followed it to get around and see where you can get back to the actual trail itself. I went a little bit off here because I found a spot that wasn't quite so snowy. It's like I said, some of the snow doesn't look like much, but it could be around 6, 8, 10, 12 inches somewhere. Some places it could be 2, 3 feet, 4, 5 feet. I was just making sure everybody got through. You kind of had to do a little bit of waiting. The CF moto that was with us smoked his belt about 4 or 5 times. His belt's got to be changed. I didn't really have any problems for the most part. I got kind of stuck once, and it really wasn't too bad. Didn't smoke my belt, but had to be pulled out by the commander right there. But I pulled them all out about 4 or 5 times. Here's me heading up the side of the mountain. This is a lot steeper than it looks. I would say it was probably about starting right there. It was about a 40-degree incline, and as you went up, it's very deceiving when you're looking at this stuff from a distance. I found that the further up we went, the worse it got. Kind of right there, it got super steep right through there, as I just put there, obviously. That incline went from being straight to about, I'd say 50 degrees right there, and I was getting a little bit shaky, so that you can see that ridge right above there, it almost went to an 80 degree, and I was just like, yeah, it's enough. Didn't want to wreck my stuff. It was only the first day, so turned around, came back down the mountain. Yeah, I was hauling here. One thing about these Mavericks, they're fast, and I got down the mountain in about a quarter of the time it took me to get up it. Unfortunately, this was taken with a phone, so kind of hard to see, but you get the basic idea. One of the things we found was there was a lot of loss of power up there. Here's some more of my horrible drone footage. We were out on the trail, and I found this big open field and decided to fly around a little bit. I'll get better at the drone stuff as time goes by, but this is my first time out. Just gorgeous. I mean, you can't even try to explain how beautiful everything out there was. We saw a lot of really cool stuff. Like I said, antelope, moose, various other animals, and you can see the wide openness of it here. We were just taking a break, having some lunch, and I decided to show a little bit of the area. This was all day one. We were pretty snowed in for the most part and a lot of stuff, but as the week progressed, it got a lot better. You can see all the snow through here. As the week ended, there was pretty much none of this left. It was in the 70s, like I said, so it was gorgeous. And the amount of animals that you see, the girls loved it. As you can see, the mountains out there in the background, that's pretty much Montana right there. We were told not to go into Montana because it was the Crow Indian Reservation, and they said, you'll come back, but your side-by-sides won't. I kind of took that as a don't go there. That's Sheep Mountain. We went up there. It was pretty snowy, couldn't get very far. But just thought I'd show some drone footage here. It was gorgeous, but you can see the snow right in the middle of the road there. That snow was probably knee deep, and I'm 6'2". There was stuff on the road there was pretty deep. You had to be a little bit careful, but we were breaking it. The first people really out there was side by side, so once you went through it, it melted pretty fast because we were down there a couple of days later and it was all gone. That is a baby elk. We took this picture 20 minutes before, and we went by and he was sitting in the middle of the road. These guys were just laying on the side. We moved down the road and sat for about a half hour and saw that Mom got them out of the middle of the road so they were safe. But yeah, baby elk were pretty cute. Day 2, headed up into the mountains. We kind of got into the back roads a little further away from the lodge. You could see that the trails were real rocky. A lot of water because obviously the snow is melting off. Beautiful trails. Everything was very well taken care of. Don't be afraid of heights like me because some of this stuff was pretty high up. Some of it was a little sketchy with the cliffs and the drop-offs and things like that. But for the most part, this stuff was probably some of the best trails I've been on. And I've been to South Dakota and the Black Hills. We've been all over the place. This is our first trip this year. But you can see, you just go over to these sweeping meadows and they're just gorgeous. And you can see over there to the left, there's the trail goes down there. So you're up and down in altitude all day long. If you get altitude sickness, I guess it would be a pretty bad place to go. We did not. Never really had the altitude sickness while we were up there. It was noticeable that you had a little shortness of breath because you would be going along and you'd stop, get stuck, and have to pull somebody out, and all of a sudden you would notice that you're winded. And we kind of prepared for this. I was walking 3-4 miles a day before we went on this trip because I'm not exactly the skinniest guy on the planet. And I found that even doing that and trying to get into a little bit of shape, that while you're up there, these altitudes would cause a lot of fatigue in a quick hurry. So yeah, there was a lack of oxygen was definitely a big deal at these altitudes. And the side-by-side was noticing some changes, because when you go up that high, the fuel map can be different. The turbo doesn't want to work the same. So there was some difficulties there. Not real bad, but you could definitely notice a loss of power. As you can see, though, the views were just amazing. Day in, day out. We had an absolute blast of a time. A lot of these hills and stuff, they're pretty rutted out from the last few years, and then water ran down them and stuff. But it wasn't nothing that your side-by-side can't handle. We met people out here on the quads, and they had a couple of 2-ups, and they were out doing this, and they didn't have any problem either. We talked to them quite a few times. They said that it was pretty easy on the 2-up also. We did run into a Maverick R, so 72 wide, which I thought was a little bit odd, but there wasn't really any trails out here that were 63 and narrower like you see in the Midwest, Minnesota and South Dakota. Up in the Black Hills, there's a lot of 63 and narrower trails. We didn't see so much of that around here. Trails were pretty rough. You get motion sickness. I wouldn't recommend going out here. Like you see here, pretty rough. Water puddles everywhere. I mean, you can see the roof. It was just covered in mud. When we got back and started to clean, there was probably 6 hours pressure washing, just trying to get the first layer of muck off. The side-by-side was filthy, and I still probably got a couple of days of washing. But you can see the river's running off to the left over there. The views were just unbelievable. If you're into that kind of thing, the nature and the just getting away, this was great. There was no cell service, so if you're addicted to your phone, this isn't the place for you. The lodge did have Starlink, which was nice, so you could at least keep in contact with the world a little bit, but it was a whopping 6 meg Starlink, so you had everybody up at the lodge that was there on the Starlink, so you'd lose bandwidth real quick. A lot of this stuff I'm trying to show you guys is just for your benefit, so that if you do go up there, you're aware. There was a couple of other lodges. There was one called Bear Lodge and then another one called Elk Lodge, and they did have side-by-sides for rent. These places don't close. They're open year-round. They have snowmobiles for rent. From what we saw, the side-by-sides were Razors and Generals for the most part. They ran about $375 a day, give or take a little bit. It matters where you went and rented them. They had a $50 you could add to it, and then if you damaged it in any way, you're only responsible for the $1,500, first $1,500. So that's if you paid $50 extra. If you didn't pay the $50 extra, it was the first $3,000 you're responsible for if you wreck it. We met quite a few people on the trails with those side-by-sides, and they seemed to be having a good time and not hurting them at all, and they were young. I personally would just bring mine out there. You can see, I mean, if you know how it is, get out on the trail, get a little rambunctious, and you could break something, and then you're paying for it with those rentals. This one, my Maverick didn't have any problems, didn't blow any tires, didn't really hurt anything except for maybe the belt once, like I said. That's me honking the horn. The guy in front of me lost his cooler that he had strapped on with a tow strap, or not a tow strap, ratchet strap basically. Trying to get him to pull over so he'd fix it. I personally have the Milwaukee packouts on the back of my Maverick. Previous videos probably have showed that. Really like those a lot. Nothing really falls out of them, nothing gets wet in them. They're rubber sealed. Also the cooler works great. We were out on the trails for between 6 and 8 hours a day, and the ice was still in them at the end of the day. You can see through here the burn. Last, I think it was August and September, they had a massive fire up there, and we ran through it. The burn area was, it's kind of humbling to see how fire could take stuff out, because it took a lot out. And it was also kind of wild to see how one spot would be burned to a crisp and the next spot would be green, like nothing ever happened. But you can see on the left over there, it's a sloping downhill. You're kind of deceiving watching it because it was quite a ways down over there to the left. It was probably 400 or 500 feet down on the left. I mean, one wrong move and you're going for a ride. Well, you're not going to die, but it's going to definitely be interesting. The trails were not washed out or anything like that, so it made it real easy to drive around and not be too concerned about, you know, falling off the edge or anything like that. But as you can see, they're muddy. There's a lot of mud. The rocks just come up out of nowhere like that, and just gorgeous. Sorry if I'm making these videos too long. Like I said, I'm an amateur at this. I'm just trying to give everybody an idea of what everything looks like, and you know what the trails are like, what to expect. Like you can see here, this puddle was pretty deep. They didn't want to go through it. I'm a little more gutsy. I hit it. It wasn't really that bad. I actually took mine through a river this week, and I'll show that a little bit later on, or maybe in a later video. The area was, I mean, just look how far you could see. Look at the clouds. It was gorgeous. I just can't say it enough. And the animals, the moose, the elk, something called a rock hog, they were everywhere. The birds. I mean, we saw blue jays, and there we go. Blue jays and various other birds while we were out there, you know, geese, ducks, I mean, everything. And the moose weren't too bad. They would leave you alone. They'd run away. We didn't see any bear, but it was recommended that we carry bear spray. I had a 9mm with me. One of my friends had a 45, and we also had a 380 with us, just for safety. They said that there hasn't been any attacks or any real issues, but you know, you come across a bear, you're better to be safe than sorry. We also had bear spray with us. You know, these animals smell food. They might decide they're hungry. But you can see this is pretty rough right here. This was one of the areas that was a little more rockier than others. Your side-by-side is going to take a pounding, so be prepared. I'm pretty sure that the sway bar link in mine, the rubber that was in there, is gone. I was starting to click at the end of the weekend, and I'm pretty positive after looking at it yesterday that it's just totally gone, so I'll probably have to fix that. I've got a few things I'm going to have to look at. Change of scene here. You can see that we went into a trail that was more covered, more of a canopy. This area was a lot of fun. This is all the same day. We were running around. More burnout on the left, not so much on the right. I don't know if the trail stopped it from burning. No, there it's burned all the way across, so I guess not. The bighorns are massive. You get up in there, and you'll see real quick that they're just endless, and the trails are endless. There's thousands of miles of trails. There was a little bit of ash still. I don't think it hurt anything. Filters take care of most of that. I would recommend pulling the filter out at least once while you're up here and getting some of this dust and other garbage out of it. Most of it's washed away, but like I said, it was a beautiful time of year, and the trails were pretty awesome. Forestry Service does a good job of keeping trees off of them. I can't say enough good stuff about the state of Wyoming and the job they did, or do, I should say, on these. Ran into a fence. Remember, if you open a fence, close it behind you. There was nothing written on the trails that these fences were private property or anything. I think there's a lot of stuff written out there for free-range animals, and so I think this was just to keep them from one place to another, keep them out. The girls were real interested in all the flowers. The wildflowers were everywhere. Just about every color of the spectrum you can figure. Again, the area was real nice. You can see they were cutting trees to keep them off the trails. So Forestry Service, just again, impeccable job. But you can also see how bad the burnout was here. According to the guy Bennett at High Country, he said that the pass that was going up there, even the guardrails were completely missing. He said, you want to talk about a little bit of a mind game when you're going up and down the pass, because I mean the guardrails are basically there to make you feel good. But that's 8 to 10% grade going up to the High Country Lodge, and when you're going up there and you don't see guardrails, it does give you a little bit of a fear factor. And what's funny is I buy a 200 horse Maverick RR, and our average speed for the whole weekend was about 22 miles per hour. And we did make a couple of trips up and down the main road on the asphalt road, so we were getting it up to 50. So you can about imagine that a lot of the time spent on these trails was below probably 15 miles per hour. Started to rain here a little bit, which was nice. It got dry really fast. It would rain, and within probably 15 to 20 minutes, the dirt was already drying out if the sun was out. And yeah, it got a little dusty. Like you can see here, the guy in front of me is kicking up a little bit of dust. Wasn't horrible. I'm sure anybody who's side-by-sider is well aware that dust gets everywhere. If you look off to the left, you'll see a house or a cabin or whatever you want to call it sitting there. It's kind of right in front of me right now. The cabin was burned all the way around it, and the cabin was left. One of those weird things. It's 100% off grid. They had solar. I didn't see any water as far as you could tell, but the trees all the way around it burned, and the cabin was saved. I don't know if they dropped water on it, if they were up here trying to save their cabin. The only thing we know for sure is that it was still there, and we just thought that was kind of odd, because everything else was, it was completely burned out. You can see those trees over there to the left. They're just black. This is a little bit later in the day. Sun was coming out, as you can see, obviously. The water had, we've gotten some puddles out there because of the rain, but here you can really see the burn. We were headed up to kind of a lookout. I think I got the lookout in this video, just real quick. I don't remember what they were looking at here. We saw a lot of what we thought were vultures. No real eagles or anything like that up here. I don't know if it was because of the fire or what it was, but a lot of birds weren't around that we thought we would see. Golden eagles, bald eagles, stuff like that. Like I said, a lot of blue jays, a lot of finches, a lot of the smaller birds. Saw a few ravens, a couple of crows, red-winged blackbirds, just things like that. The normal stuff you see all around the United States. You can see here that trail went all the way up to the left there. Sometimes you wonder when you're riding behind people why they stop, and then they're pointing out stuff. I think there was some elk or something over here to the left. We were pretty good about, if we saw animals close, we'd stop and kind of let them meander away or whatever, just so that we're not bugging them. And like I said, the trails are real well marked. We were using Ride Command on the front side-by-side. I was using the Can-Am Go app. The Can-Am Go app actually had more of the layout of the land. The only thing I don't like about that Can-Am app is if you're using an iPad like I do, it only gives you like the center part of the screen. It doesn't widen out. Like the Ride Command one uses the whole screen. This one uses what would basically, or the Can-Am Go basically uses what would be your phone. And so if you're looking at it, it's just kind of like, well, that didn't do you a lot of good. So jump cut here to the top of the hill. Got up here again, real burned out, but it was growing back. Things are coming back quickly. You could see the shale rock everywhere. There was a lot of shale rock. Tires, if you're running 30s or 28s, which are stock, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. I've got 32s. I had zero issue. I was clearance on everything. And Mavericks are a little bit lower of a side-by-side than most of them because they're kind of the sport model. But it was, with the 32s, it was up high enough that we never really bottomed out, just in the snow. And as you'll see here, we're coming up to the top of this overlook. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see the trail off to the left over there. It's probably 4 or 5 miles away. But yeah, there it is. Gorgeous. I just realized that this video is getting to be a little bit long, so I figured I'd put in the funny part. Went through a river. It was just above the doors. It was a lot of fun. Washed off a good portion of the mud. And if you watch right at the end here, it's only for literally a split second, but you'll see a guy's boots that were trying to dry out that I completely took out. They got real wet. And then we went through one more time. Girlfriend took some of the video. It cleaned some of it off, but yeah, for the most part, it was a lot of fun. Would like to thank everybody for watching. Again, it was the Wyoming High Country Lodge. It was a beautiful place. You can see the mountain in the background. If you look at the beginning of the video and now, you can see the difference between the two. The snow had dissipated quite a bit, but it was absolutely gorgeous out there. I would recommend you go out there if you're a side-by-sider or a snowmobiler in the wintertime. Check it out. The people are wonderful. The place is amazing. It's got pretty much everything you could want. I'll get better at my drone flying abilities. Get a little bit more smoother as time goes by. I know I'm not that great. I just once again thank everybody for watching. I appreciate the support. I know I'm not the greatest video vlogger or whatever, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. And one more quick goodbye. That's all the friends around the fire. That's the lodge. You can see one of the cabins up there to the left. We had a lot of fun. Like I said again, head up there, give them a call, tell them you saw the video on YouTube, and decide to go side by side and up there. And remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps. And thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.